Springfield Armory 911. Let's check it out. Springfield Armory originally built their business on 1911s, and they still today are one of the most popular 1911 companies in America. And then also the M1A. But of course, and then they import the XD series, which has been, again, very popular. But because of their strength in 1911s, it's really cool to see one of these little small miniature 1911s, the 911. This is the 380 version. They've just come out with the 9mm. And of course, the Colt Mustang years ago, that was one of my first small little 1911 micros, and still have that pistol today. But also with the SIG P238 and other single action small little 380 firearms, there's a lot of choices, but there's some pretty cool features on this little 911 that I think you're going to like. But I want to thank GunBuyer.com for sending the pistol for this test and evaluation, and for their sponsorship. It's always great to be able to get different type guns that are not related to the gun industry per se. One of the reasons why Springfield named this the 911 is because you are, a lot of times, your first responder. You are the one who has to defend your life, and that is 99.9% of the time. Law enforcement is not always around. And so, you know, having something handy, readily available, very compact is important. This is in 380 ACP, has a stainless steel slide, an aluminum frame. It is single action, just like, very similar to the 1911. In fact, it's based on the 1911. We're going to drop the magazine. It does have a 6-round magazine. It comes with a 7-round magazine with an extended base plate. And the gun is unloaded. You do have external ambidextrous safeties, but because this is single action, you really need that. Because it's single action, you're not getting any movement of the hammer on that first shot. And so it has to be in the rear position, drop it, and then you can fire, and then every subsequent shot, the hammer will be in the rear position, you can fire. Which is just basic, guys, but sometimes people are watching these videos that really don't know that much about firearms. It also has the G10 grips, which are very well done and super thin. I mean, look how thin those grips are. You couldn't do that with traditional wood. One of the beautiful things about G10. Also, we have this Octo grip, is what they call it. This is a very aggressive grip pattern, but yet it won't snag on your clothes. So to me, I really love that grip. That is beautiful. It's one of the things about this pistol in particular, even the serrations on the rear of the slide, there's just some really beautiful styling that's very purposeful. Now this is actually a G10 insert, and it's a Hogue insert. And then also the trigger shoe itself is from Hogue as well, and it's G10. It has serrations on the front. So it's a very small, compact 380 ACP pistol. But guys, I want to talk a little bit about the history of how this came about. Because originally, people were carrying small pistols like this little Beretta 950, which is in 25 ACP. In fact, this is still one of my favorite little handguns. And again, the underpowered 25 ACP was about all that they could make in this small size. Here we have 380, and it's not much difference. And so that's one of the reasons why you're no longer seeing 25 ACPs currently made, at least in abundance. There may be a couple of companies making them. But it's a very underpowered round, but they were really wanting something super concealable. And so when you could get 380 in that same concealment, this is what you get. But this was derived from the original Colt Mustang, which this is about 30 years old. In fact, this is one of the originals when they came out. And I bought one for my wife, and she loved it, but then she went with Glock, wanted something with a little more mag capacity. And now she has a shield. But this is your 380 ACP, and honestly, during that time, concealed carry was not as prominent as it is now. And so they just really didn't sell enough to keep these on the books. Now Colt, of course, has gone from there. But this is a updated version of the 380 1911. Of course, we have the SIG P328, and my mom's, that's her actual concealed carry, and she's not here today, or I would have that compared. But, you know, it's pretty much a lot of similarities between those two pistols. But then there are a lot of the same designs coming out in 9mm. And here we have, this is a Kimber in the 9mm. It's the Micro 9. This is a wonderful gun, and it's not much bigger than the 380. And so it gives you a little more oomph. It is a little thicker. You know, it is a little bit larger. And in fact, the 911 is coming out. In fact, just came out in 9mm. There are some advantages and disadvantages with a single action pistol like this for concealed carry. One of the big advantages, though, and I'm going to pull out my little Ruger LCP. This is a great little pistol. I love it. It's actually the Gen 2 version. The trigger's been somewhat improved over the original, which the trigger on the first ones was atrocious. But one of the big things about this handgun is the recoil is very snappy, and it takes a lot of practice to master it. Now, I love these, and I've shot them, and I carry them, and I've learned to shoot them very well. And now I have the Ruger LCP2. But one of the things about the trigger is that, especially with 1911 or single action design, it is exceptional. We'll look at that in a minute. And the recoil on this is way less, very little snap to it like it is on the LCP. So that to me is a huge advantage. Now this does have the exposed hammer, and so it's a little bit different manual of arms, even though the Ruger LCP does have a small little safety right here. So, you know, that is one thing to make sure that you train. If you're used to shooting striker fire pistols and you're carrying one of these, you need to really make sure that you have in mind that that safety needs to be disengaged. But one thing I really like about the Springfield Armory 911 is there are a lot of features on here. This gun, to me, has been very well thought out. Of course, we've already talked about the texturing and the grip, which, with these little small pistols, that is important. Have a good, solid grip on it. And even though your pinky hangs down off the end, guys, there's something about how thin it is that you don't really notice it as much. And two, you got this beaver tail. So you've got a really solid grip on the pistol, and then the recoil is fairly mild. But with the beaver tail, and of course you have a commander style hammer that comes back, and so there's not really a lot of danger of slide bite unless you have really meaty hands that come up around, you know, the beaver tail, because it rides pretty low. And it does have the low 1911 bore axis, and while we've got it here, these sights are really good. This is the Pro Glow sights, and we have a tritium white outline rear. And then here at the front, we have a nice orange glow, and man, you can see that, especially during daylight, but even at night, you've got your tritium sights. And that's very important for a self-defense pistol, in my opinion. Now, talking about grip, we do have the extension, which does add some to the grip, and it allows you to get a full grip on the pistol. So, you know, you can carry it this way if you want, and then, of course, for really deep concealment, you know, carry your small little magazine. But I'm telling you guys, there's just not a lot of difference between the two base plates, in my opinion, just as far as the shootability. It's more psychological. Now, the aluminum frame is from 7075 T6 aluminum. It has a matte finish to it, brushed stainless finish, and of course this does come in a black nitride finish as well. In fact, there's a lot of different models of the Springfield Armory 911. You can check them out. Again, the ambidextrous safeties, they're very positive. One of the things about the Colt was sometimes when you were firing it, you would accidentally engage the safety, to the point that when I shoot this gun, I actually put my thumb over the safety to keep it from engaging. But with the Springfield Armory, it rides lower, and it's more of a positive action. So I really like that. Of course, you have your slide stop, which is 1911 style, and it just locks into your notch. Of course, you have your standard tilt barrel, and we'll look at that when we break the pistol down. Your magazine release, again, 1911, right there on the side. It is only one-sided. You can't switch it to the other side. Now, as far as the magazine well goes, it is beveled. It's very nice, which I like. Makes it a little bit easier to get those magazines in and out. One thing, too, I noticed is that the barrel is crowned. It's a 2.7-inch stainless steel barrel, and, you know, it makes it really a compact size. In fact, the gun is 5.5 inches in length and 4 inches in height, and it has to be about 0.8 in, or maybe even smaller. in how narrow it is. I'll tell you guys, this, you get it in your hand, it's just such a small little gun. It feels great. And usually when I feel that way, I'm thinking, oh Lord, it's going to be snappy. But it just wasn't that snappy. And the sights do have somewhat of a little bit of an edge right here, so you can do one-handed reload manipulations. In fact, it has a little angle, which makes it even easier. So you can put that on your belt, a table, whatever. It does have a loaded chamber indicator right here, and that'll just pop up. I don't have a 380 dummy round, or I would show you, but it just pops up a little bit. 911 marked right here on the slide. Then on this side, down here low, Springfield Armory. And it's a fairly clean looking handgun, very simple. Now we're going to check the trigger action, drop the magazine, make sure the gun is unloaded. Hammer's back. Here we have a little bit of take up, and you heard that little snap. It's actually almost like a two-stage trigger. And then a super crisp break. Reset right there. I mean, it is fast. Now, Springfield Armory says that it's a 5.5 pound trigger pull, but I've got my trusty Lyman trigger gauge from Brownells. 5 pounds 3 ounces. 5 pounds 5.6 ounces. 5 pounds 2.2 ounces. So very consistent, about the 5 1/4 pound range. By Job, they were pretty close. Now I have some 380 and some 9mm. Just do a quick comparison. Here is your Full Metal Jacket 380 ACP. They're also called 9mm Kurtz in Europe, which means 9mm short, and it's definitely shorter. It's about 100 grains for 380 ACP typically, and then your 9mm is typically about 115 grain for Full Metal Jacket, but they do the 124 and the 147. There's a number of different loads for 9mm. Then you have your jacketed hollow points. I'm going to bring these up. This is a Winchester jacketed hollow point, and here we have the Hornady Critical Defense. In fact, these are 115 grain, and I'm not sure the weight on this one. This is just some rounds that I had laying around, but it just was enough to give you somewhat of a comparison. One of the things that Springfield Armory says is that the 911 will handle any of your modern self-defense loads in 380. So just kind of give you just a little bit of an idea. You're getting more power, definitely, with the 9mm, but 380 ACP is no slouch either. But most people will say that 380 ACP is really the lowest you need to depend on in a self-defense situation. We've already got some mags loaded, and we have some Winchester hollow points, and so we're going to try those, see how it feeds. I'm going to be using some of this Phoenix ammunition. A buddy of mine sent this to me, and it worked really well before, but we're just going to try some different loads. Now, a lot of times when you have small pistols, they can be hard to handle. They can be snappy. You know, the recoil can be pretty intense. With 380 ACP, you know, it's not too bad. But, you know, typically it's just physics. You know, the larger the pistol, the less recoil typically. And with this little small, lightweight handgun, I really was curious how it would perform at the range. But with the texturing of the grip, it gives you a good solid grip on this handgun, even though your pinky hangs off without the extension. But it's just really flat shooting. I think a lot of that has to do with the flat recoil spring mechanism they have in there. I know that HK kind of is one of the first that started using that, claiming that it did lessen the recoil. And it does. I mean, from all the experience I've had, whenever I see a flat recoil spring in a firearm, I know that the recoil is going to be tame, or more tame than typical. But with this small little pistol, it was really easy to shoot. The trigger was really crisp, nice trigger. In fact, if I kind of let it go, it would really, in rapid fire, it would really take off. And then, of course, those sights. Now, that front Pro Glow sight, it just shines like the day, and that, you know, in the daylight. But at night, of course, you know, you're going to be able to see your sights. And so on a defensive pistol, I really like to have night sights. Everything about this little handgun shooting, it was a real pleasure. Similar 380s in this size can be tough, but for me, this little 911, it was an excellent shooter at the range, and it was very pleasurable. Now for disassembly, we drop our magazine, again, check to make sure the gun is unloaded. What we're going to do is bring back our slide, and right here there's a secondary notch. You can see it right here. And then there's a little piece on your takedown lever that corresponds with that notch. Right here on the other side of the handgun, where your takedown lever pin comes through, just push that through a little bit, and then you can just go ahead and pull out your takedown piece. Then let your slide just go forward. We have a recoil spring and guide rod, and it is a full-length steel guide rod. And one thing too I want to note is that it does have the flat recoil spring, and this is supposed to lessen recoil. I think HK started introducing these first. I may be mistaken, but these really help with felt recoil. And then just pull your barrel out, and it's a modified Browning design. And that's pretty much all you need to do to field strip the handgun. It's a very simple 1911. There's no barrel bushing, you know, where you have to in barrel plug or recoil guide rod plug. So it makes it a lot easier to disassemble. Here you can see your ejector, and you're going to have to push this down. You do have a small little spring here when you insert your slide stop. The way it kind of fits and just works a little bit different than the 1911. But pretty much everything else is very close. Of course, no grip safety. Here we have a firing pin block safety right here, so it's drop safe, but just very well finished. Then for reassembly, throw in your barrel, recoil spring, and guide rod. We bring it back over our slide again, making sure that your ejector is down. It'll want to pop up until it gets to a certain point. There it goes. Now once you get it to here, you want to go ahead and insert your slide stop while the barrel link is in place. And then bring back to that notch and then just snap it into place. One thing here is you want to make sure by entering your magazine that the slide stays back, because if that spring didn't hit with your slide stop, it'll actually make the slide hold back after every shot. But with this one, I've not had any problems with it going under the spring. Every time I've disassembled it, it's just snapped right into place. Now it comes in a small cardboard box, but one thing I really like is this pouch. And it has a small little holster area here, and this is actually on Velcro. You pull this off and then use this as a pocket holster. So I think that's pretty cool. Slip your extra magazine right here in this little loop. And of course you can put some kind of ID or, you know, range membership, whatever you have right here. So this is a pretty cool little addition. I know on the Gear Up package it includes 3 extra 6-round magazines, which is nice, but those are no longer available. Now the retail price on the 911 is $599. On the GunBuyer.com website it runs $512.47, which, looking around, that's one of the best prices I've seen. Magazines run about $22, whether you get the 6-round flush fit or the 7-round extended, and those are in the blue or stainless. It comes in both. So the magazine really makes a big difference. I know with the SIG P238, those can run up to about $45, and so that's a big plus for the Springfield. But GunBuyer.com again sent this, and the prices are excellent, and they're great to deal with. Guys, there's a lot of handguns on the market, and for me, a lot of times I'll carry a larger frame pistol. But if I need to be discreet, if I want something small, I want something lightweight, this would be an excellent choice. Or if you have a significant other that is looking for something small and yet easy to manipulate, it's one of the things that this gun really has going for it. And then, of course, the recoil is fairly mild. It is 380. It will handle about any self-defense load. So I think it's really an excellent choice for concealed carry. And again, I want to thank GunBuyer.com for sending the Springfield Armory 911 for this test and evaluation and for their support. So guys, do me a favor and go over and check out GunBuyer.com. Be strong, be of good courage. God bless America. Long live the Republic. is because of guns like this little, oops, is that you don't have to worry about any kind of, well, not sure why, I'm not a physics. I'm not sure. Who are you gonna call? 911.